But it's not easy for women to find those sponsors either.
No.
So what advice would you give women who are trying to climb up in finding some of those people who will be their advocates?
Yeah, well, a couple things. I think there's two very specific strategies that I would suggest, and one of them is the networking that I mentioned earlier. Is just be out there all the time and meet as many people as possible, because my experience is whether the person is your peer, your boss, someone or a level above you, whatever it may be, or someone beneath you, you can learn from everybody. And you never know where a conversation is going to lead you to. So I think the networking piece is critical. I think the second piece is to make sure that your work is visible. Find opportunities to tell your story. Find opportunities to make your work visible so that those advocates emerge naturally. I mean, as our company does, I mentioned to you, and a lot of companies do, we have formal sponsorship programs in place. But that's not the solution. Sometimes they don't work out. In fact, in my experience, and here someone who runs sponsorship and mentorship programs, and I believe in them, but the reality is the best relationships are the ones that are built naturally, not necessarily through this formal matching process. And so that's where you have to just sort of get yourself out there and put your work out there and let people see you in action so that they start to trust you. And I also think, and I'll tell you a little personal anecdotal story which had a huge impact on my career. I think it's important to be passing subtle hints always about your goals. Nobody really wants to be around someone who's overly aggressively climbing the ladder, right? You kind of need to manage that whole message, right? I'm very ambitious, there's no doubt about that, everybody knows that, but you don't want to rub it in people's faces either. So I think it's really important, the power of subtle hints. And so here's my quick story. I'll never forget, I was working at Credit Suisse, this was now about 11 years ago, and, you know, a Swiss company, and being brutally honest, I worked for a very conservative Swiss man. Lovely man, by the way. Still in touch with him, he's great. But very conservative, and he himself had biases that I was well aware of. And I was having my performance review in August of 2006, and we're going through the performance review. It was a very good review, I felt really good, and all I said at the end was the following. I said, Siggy, please do not rule me out for an international assignment because I have 2 young babies at home. And I'm not making this up. I got a call a week later asking me to take on the role in Hong Kong. And it was a subtle hint, and that was it. So I encourage people to just constantly just throw those hints out there, because you never know what it's going to lead to. It might not be a week later to go internationally, but it could mean that all of a sudden somebody says, you know what, that conversation I had with Patsy, a year ago, she might be the right person for this job today. Right. So that's my advice.